Teachers, did you know that there's a pricing strategy that online tutors are using right now to earn $1,000 or pounds or more per student every single time they make a new enrollment? Which means on any given month, they only need to enroll 3 to 5 students to replace the average classroom salary. And that might sound crazy, but there's tutors all over the world doing it right now. In fact, some of them are my clients. Clients like Marcus, who quickly scaled to 6 figures. Clients like Evan, who scaled to 6 figures alongside of his full-time classroom job. Even clients like Quinita, clients like Tara, and the list goes on. And they're all using this pricing strategy that I'll break down inside of this video. So let's jump in. So when it comes to pricing your online tutoring services, I'm first going to share what not to do so that you can actually increase your income as an online tutor, perhaps quickly replace your classroom salary if you're still in the classroom, and actually get committed students that pay you what you're worth so you can change their lives and have more impact. All right, so I'll share what not to do, and then I'll walk you through the pricing strategy that actually allows you to charge $1,000 or pounds or more per student. Every time you then make a new enrollment, that's another $1,000 or pounds into your business. So at that point, it's really just a case of making sure that you have a solid system in place to keep enrolling students, build a team of teachers and tutors around you so that you can scale your business. And this is what teachers all over the world are tapping into right now. We're literally living in the golden era for teachers, but a lot of it comes down to this pricing strategy. And if you get it wrong, you simply just don't have the margins to actually advertise your business, hire staff to help you grow. So you get bogged down, you get stuck in the weeds, you essentially just create a glorified job if you're not charging a premium rate. Okay, so here's what not to do. So what you should not do is teach one-on-one. Okay, now that might be a good idea to get started if you're just looking to start teaching online, but here's why it's not a good idea, right? Teaching one-on-one immediately puts a cap on what you can charge per student. Now, absolutely, you can earn $1,000 or pounds per student when you teach them one-on-one. You've just got to accumulate the lessons, okay? But there's going to be only so many students that you can, of course, take on at any given time. Plus, there's going to be a limit to what they're going to be willing to pay for your online tutoring lessons when you teach them one-on-one. So you end up just getting stuck in the weeds, as I was saying, creating a glorified job because you can teach one student from perhaps, let's say for an example, 4 till 5 p.m., 5 till 6, 6 till 7, 7 till 8, and you've probably got a classroom job earlier in the day as well. And you're probably going to stop at that point because students then need to go to bed before school the next day. And you can only do that on so many days per week, right? So you're limiting your entire business model is set up to fail right from the beginning. As I said, it's good to maybe get some initial experience. If you're a teacher wanting to venture into online tutoring, you want to teach a couple of private students, fine, but it's not a scalable and long-term model. So as I was saying, you're also capped on what you can charge per student. So let's say that you charge $50 or £50, and let's say that then at that point you had 4 lessons, all at £50, okay, on any given evening. That's $200 or £200, whatever you want to, whatever currency. For the sake of this video, I'll just keep it in dollars, but it doesn't really matter if you're dealing in dollars or pounds. The price points really just stay the same. So let's say you're charging 50 per session. That's 4 hours an evening, 200 times by 5. If you're doing it Monday through Friday, that's $1,000 a week. Okay, times that across the month, about $4,000. Okay, now that student then could see you potentially once per week, right? So they're paying you $200 per month. So you've got to make sure that then you see them over the course of 5 months. That's almost half a year if you're seeing these students once a week to earn $1,000 or pounds just from that one student. Now look, you could teach them twice a week, and at that point you would half that time, right? And so that's one way of doing it. However, the other way is teach groups online and create a premium group program that gets your students amazing results. Okay, and when you structure it this way, you can just charge $1,000 per student right off the bat. And so if we think about that one-on-one model as well before we go into this, when you teach one-on-one, you are also setting yourself up for reschedules, cancellations. And so let's say, for example, I have a guitar tutor, right? And I have a guitar tutor every Monday morning. I have a guitar lesson. However, some weeks, for example, when I'm not here and I'm traveling, I let the guitar teacher know in advance, hey, I'm not going to be here this week, all right? Or in that week, I'm not here. And so the lesson gets cancelled and it gets rescheduled. And so there's zero predictability. So that time that teacher is going to take to earn $1,000 or pounds from me is obviously going to elongate at that point in time. So now if we think about the group model, and the best way to explain this is think about an extracurricular activity club that happens in a school. Okay, so I personally send my daughter to basketball club, and she attends basketball at school once a week. Now the basketball providers, they charge by the term, so over a 12-week period. And that means they can immediately bring in more per student, okay? And so I'm already, if I was that basketball providing company, able to take in more per student. I've got more predictability because I don't say to that basketball club, hey, my daughter was sick this week, she wasn't at school, can we get a refund for that lesson? They have it in their terms and conditions and agreements at the start of the term. They don't rearrange it for me because that's when the lesson is, right? So they're not going to magically put on another group lesson during the week, the following week, so my daughter can catch up. No, we just accept that it doesn't work like that. And so this is the model that you need to run in order to price your services and have the right pricing strategy when you're an online tutor, so you can charge $1,000 more per student. So the first thing is the length. So the length of the program, you're looking at about 12 weeks or just a semester or school term. Okay, and it's not like it's something crazy that no one's ever heard about before. The parents and students are used to paying that for most of their other things and activities that they enroll into. Okay, so it's not like it's going to be a surprise. It makes sense. Studies show, that 90 days, studies show that that's a great length of time for people to see change, commit to their goals, and actually see a difference in their results.
Guys, quick interrupt. I hope you're enjoying the video, but I wanted to make sure you picked up your copy of Teaching on Your Own Terms. It's my best-selling book, and it shares with you the exact 5 steps that I've used with over 2,000 teachers at this point, helping them build their dream online teaching businesses. It went to bestseller in 7 categories. It's been featured by NASDAQ in Times Square, New York City. And I know you're gonna love it. Inside of the book, you're gonna learn things like how to position yourself as the go-to tutor in the marketplace and the offer that you can create to get your ideal students reaching out and how to communicate that. I'll share with you what I've seen as the best advertising strategies to get in front of new students and parents who want what you've got, how to sell your services, and everything you actually need to include in an online group tutoring business to make sure your students crush it and get great results. There's some free gifts and bonuses in there. I think in the first couple of pages, there's a link. You can go and grab some free gifts on me. But I know you're going to love it. Teaching on Your Own Terms. I'll leave a link down below in the comments and go and pick up your copy today.
Okay, so the first thing is the length. So if you create a group tutoring program that is 12 weeks, and then the key would be, and this again depends on a few things, subject, your experience, your teaching ability, and the age of the student as well. You might start anywhere from 5 to 10 students. You can of course scale past that if you want to, and again, that depends on your confidence, age, ability, things like that of the students. Okay, now let's say you have 5 in a group. Well, now this is a very intimate group where I can really work closely with the students, right? So if it's a group, you can of course make sure that you put in the group students who are at a similar ability level. This creates a winning environment because if student A, let's call him Jimmy, and student B, Johnny, see each other inside of the group and Jimmy sees Johnny getting better, well, Jimmy starts to desire that change as well. He feels more motivated, right? Because he can see someone who was at a similar ability level when they started getting better and better and better. His belief goes up, that creates change in him as well. So when you have these intimate groups, it really does facilitate the right winning environment for the students. Okay, and that also helps with retention. So these groups, you can see them once or twice a week, and once is fine. Okay, twice, that would also work as well, because the more you can get in front of the students, the more you can influence and change them. So if we think about that, then over the course of 12 weeks, if the students were going to have 1 lesson per week or 2 lessons a week, it's about like 41.66. It breaks down. That's actually not a lot when you break it down, right? $41.66. That's not a lot. Let's just call it 40 bucks. Okay. And so when you have it like that, the parents aren't really going to, think it's extortionate, right? As long as you are communicating the result that you're going to help the students achieve, you've got the right offer. It's not just a generalist tutoring program. So that's part 1, length, and then the price point. You're looking about $1,000 for that period of time. Then from there, with the group number being about 5 to 10, perhaps in the beginning, you also need to think about what you're providing away from the lessons, okay, to get the pricing strategy right. Now, a lot of teachers get this wrong because all they do is to show up to Zoom each and every single week, and they build these group lessons and they just teach. And it's not enough. The students then and the parents then just value what goes on in that one actual lesson. And if we think about it, you can still get one-on-one tutoring for $40 if the parents were to break that down, and that's what it works out to. So they'll probably just go ahead and do that, and so your retention will suck. It's basically like having a bucket with a giant hole in the bottom. The students are coming in the top, falling out the bottom. So you don't want a leaky bucket, right? So what goes on away from the lessons is just as important. But because you're now freer on time, because you're not teaching 24/7 online on Zoom, because you're teaching a group-based model, you can create things like a study curriculum away from the lessons. Now, you don't need this at the start by any means, but as your student base starts to grow, you're going to want to add in more value. Okay, and you could create some sort of study learning portal that the students get a login to and they can use, and you can refer them to the homework. You can upload lesson replays, and this kind of counteracts when parents or students want to reschedule. Well, you just upload the replay into their portal and you just get them to watch that, and they catch up in their spare time so they don't miss anything. It's not like at school when the lessons aren't recorded, and this is part of the selling point. If they miss something, you can catch up with the lessons. You can then upload homework tasks into this learning portal. You could track student results, student logins, everything like that, so you can keep the students accountable. So they've actually got some sort of assets, some sort of learning hub away from the lessons as well for self-paced study, okay? You could create a parent side to that as well. And there's a ton of apps that do this anyway these days, right? But it's about combining it into this one giant offer so that you've got a premium service. The other thing that you can add in to make sure that you've got your pricing strategy of $1,000 or more, the parents are going to think, wow, it's so undervalued based on what you're offering, is something like a catch-up lesson or a homework club or a book club. So remember when I enrolled my daughter into one of the tutors that we work with into their reading programs, every week on a Wednesday, they had a book club where they invited all of the students. It didn't matter if they were in grade 1 or grade 2 or year 1 or year 2 at school, and then you had the year 6s or 5th grade students. Once a week, they all just came together and they made it a little bit of fun. So you had the students in there, it created collaboration, it was fun, the students were buzzing. So it was also something as well where it was just making learning fun. And this particular offer was a reading offer, teaching students to read and improve their reading skills. And so it just made reading more fun and more enjoyable. So the students learned to love it more. And if you love something, you do it more frequently, right? Because it's enjoyable. So you can add in these little clubs that enhance the offer, okay? And it could even just be a homework club or a catch-up club. If you've got struggling students, you can just allocate an hour a week, like an office hour session or a Q&A. Homework club, depends on the age of the student, what would make the most sense. And that's another value add into your program. So all of a sudden you're building a premium offer. On top of that, you can then create some form of community, perhaps. So you can have a community. This could be in like a social media group, like on WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook Messenger, chat group. You can use different apps to build communities these days as well. And what that does is it creates that community feel for the parent and the student, where you can provide updates. You can be seen as more than just the teacher. You can be seen as the leader, where you can provide motivational tips, feedback, announcements, everything like that. So you create this thriving community, and that's what enhances things like retention. And so when you start to package all of this together, this is what makes it, a no-brainer when you charge $1,000 or pounds or more per student, and it's over 12 weeks. If you break that down, it doesn't add up to a lot per lesson. And the key to doing this is, of course, to really zone in on one specific type of student. Instead of just being a generalist and labeling yourself as a tutor, focus on one student. You get seen as the chiropractor or the brain surgeon for that student, because you're really talking about and communicating the result that student wants to achieve. Okay, think about the chiropractor. If I've got back pain, the chiropractor is going to be talking to me about solving my back pain. And if that's something that is causing me a lot of issues, a lot of pain, I'm going to be willing to pay the price to solve it, right? So that also allows you to charge a premium rate, is making sure that you're really niching down and communicating to a specific type of student, a specific problem, and really articulating the result that they want to achieve. Pair that with that premium program package that I just mentioned to you, and then you can charge a premium rate, like $1,000 or more per student, and you charge it over a block, and that's how you do it. Simple as that. Now, in terms of increasing your rate, now a good way to do this is to judge on your enrollment rate, because you don't need to stop there. You can increase it. Okay, so for example, a good indication that you could increase your rate is if you're speaking to, let's say you speak to 10 students each month and 4 of them enroll. Okay, well, if 4 people enroll, or whether that's on a weekly basis, you speak to 10, 4 enroll, that's a good indication that you can probably look to increase your rate. If you're enrolling anywhere from 40, perhaps maybe a bit higher, 50% of the students you speak to, good indication to increase your rate. Try a bump of 20 to 25% increase, and then keep judging it based on that. You'll find there's some sort of price elasticity, meaning how far you can push your pricing based on the offer that you've got, so the subject you teach, the student that you serve, and you'll be able to find the sweet spot for your particular offer. Now, of course, you can't just go out there and charge that amount as well if you don't have case studies, you don't have results, and you're not good at sales, but these are all skills that you can learn. All right, so a lot of the teachers that we work with, what they do initially is they might take a couple of beta groups on where they'll just charge $97, something like that, for 30 days of tutoring, and they don't give them the whole kind of shabam that I just kind of broke down for you, the whole package. It's just 1 lesson a week, start assessment, end assessment, and then they might upsell them for 12 weeks, and that's when they would start charging $1,000 or more per student. All right, and that's a great way to, you know, get some initial students if you're just starting from scratch, get some student results that you can then use as case studies to really kind of build trust, establish authority, also practice and validate your online teaching methods if you're starting from the beginning, and then you can always increase your price down the line as well. So just bear that in mind, because if you go out there and you just try and charge $1,000 or more per student, and you think, I'm going to build this premium package that Elliot's just shared with me, it's not just going to work like that. You do need to have some experience, some sales skills. Again, they're all learnable. A great way to learn them also is in my book, Teaching on Your Own Terms. It was a bestseller in 7 categories. It's featured by NASDAQ in Times Square in New York City. It's been featured on TV. And I really break down in more detail all of these things that we were talking about that allows you to have a premium priced online group tutoring program. I know you're going to take a lot of value from it if you go and pick up the book. There'll probably be a link somewhere around this video. You can grab it, and I know it'll be one of the best reads you have this school year. So see you in the next video. Hit subscribe, hit like wherever you're watching it, leave a comment, or go and grab the book. See you in the next video.